Please introduce yourself and provide a little background. When did you come to the islands? And what was your path to becoming a superintendent?
Well, thank you for having me on here. I appreciate it. And I appreciate the opportunity to share a little bit about Lopez. I've been on Lopez now for 6 years, and my path was an interesting path here. I actually came out here prior to being hired here, and just came out and did my superintendent internship. And I joked with the former superintendent then that I didn't want to be a superintendent until I was ready to retire, closer towards retirement. But obviously fell in love with the place and just felt like I aligned really well with my values, my beliefs, and just where we were going as a system. And so I felt I could contribute and keep us moving in that direction and support some of the amazing things we're doing here. I still, kind of pinch myself from time to time because it is a bit of a surreal situation. It's from time to time being on a small island and, having some of the exceptional things and staff to work with. It's just been great.
What are the key challenges that need to be addressed in order to continue quality educational programs and services for our youth while reducing the risk of the spread of COVID-19?
I would say the biggest key challenge we have that we're facing, much like all of our schools in our area, is just the unknown. Nobody's really been through a pandemic, and I don't have a nice 3-ring notebook sitting on my shelf that's been collecting dust for the last 20 years. So it's an interesting piece, is that unknown factor, and that unknown factor impacts us across the board. Everything from our delivery instruction, resources that we might be able to tap into, budgets, staffing, and just any type of resource that we would normally access is definitely one of our key issues and one of our challenges in front of us. That being said, we're taking a group of professionals, our teachers, and we've trained them for decades to interact and engage with kids on an in-person level, and now we're telling them they've got to be on a screen, and that is just a huge challenge for staff. And there's such a steep learning curve for folks, and it's for everybody. Everybody's seeing this learning curve and trying to navigate the best they can some sort of learning plan or model that is creating, credible and realistic learning opportunities for kids, and impacting kids in a way that, helps them engage at a level that keeps their learning moving forward and keeps them just, enjoying learning. So it's a unique experience right now, and definitely, one that causes us to rethink why we do what we do and how do we make it better, and allows us to really kind of, we've taken the stance where we're just trying to give opportunities for teachers and allow some instructional freedom there. And that's been neat to see, just the creativity come from teachers. And it's amazing how creative teachers can be when they're trying to connect with their kids and get, new learning into the kids' worlds and into the families' lives. So that's been an amazing process, an amazing experience already. That being said, we know it's not going to be perfect. We know we're going to have bumps, and we know we're going to have to listen to parent feedback and staff feedback and student feedback just to kind of make the adjustments that we need to get better at what we're doing.
What did you learn from your experience providing distance learning last year that is influencing changes and improvements for this fall?
We did learn a lot from this last spring, and we took notes. We sent out parent surveys and gleaned feedback from both our parents, our staff, and our students, just improving our virtual learning model. And that was great feedback that kind of really guided us over the summers in creating our restart plan. And I think that when I reflect on the process there's a lot of good conversations over the summer that would refer back to feedback from parents or from students and staff that just guided us in a way to be more creative, and allowed us to think outside the box a little bit. And, giving my staff permission to do that was great. It really opened some opportunities. We really realized through last spring that there's a difference between screen time and virtual learning. And that's something that we are looking at distincting from in our instructional level. We want to share that with families as we get out there. One of the other things we looked at was we tried to run a regular, normal schedule in the virtual world, and quickly realized that isn't successful. That is a challenge for families, it's a challenge for staff, and anybody who's connected to it. So we had made some huge adjustments, and in our secondary model, we really honed in on being just solid with one option. And really we took the stance of, instead of being a mile wide, we wanted to go a mile deep with our learning. And one of those key pieces was taking our blocks and shorten them, making them more intense and more focused. So we created a schedule that has a 2-week window where they're giving intense instruction in one academic area, and then they rotate to the next academic area after that section is done. So it's more intense blocks, but they're shorter, and we're still able to keep moving through the system and the classes for kids. In addition, we also wanted to create support systems with interventions and some social emotional connections for kids. We found that the social emotional connections for kids was something that we really wanted to boost up a little bit more, just making those connections with kids and really supporting their emotional wherewithal and well-being. And just there's an absence right now of them being able to socialize and connect with each other. And so we wanted to integrate that into what we're doing. So just really focused on that. At the elementary level, we knew that our screen time was a concern, and we wanted to be mindful of that process. And so really we setting up now for our elementary classes to have kind of a class meeting, which is intended to connect with that social emotional component and create that experience where their classmates are able to see each other and engage with their teacher. And then we create a learning opportunity followed by support systems with small groups or RTI, which would be intervention type stuff for kids. Having the day much more condensed as far as time on the screen, but yet having more opportunities for families and students to access their teachers through office hours or open time blocks in their schedule in their day, where families could email a teacher and connect with them and get support for their child. So definitely an adjustment. By no means is it going to be perfect starting out, but we'll continue to adjust that model.
What equity plan do you have to specifically address the diverse needs of typically underserved, underperforming students, such as those in low-income families, Black and Brown students, and students with disabilities?
They're definitely a priority on our list, and they were a category that each one of our teams really kind of identified and built in systems of support. We obviously, when we looked at our virtual schedule, we really built in the small group sessions to incorporate to your tier 2 kids who need academic support. And really your tier 2 kids are the kids who are just on that cusp of being just below grade level or maybe just above grade level. And so focusing on support with them, they've got adults they would connect with on a regular basis, on a daily basis, that would support their academic learning in whatever skill deficit area they have. In addition to the small groups, we also have the even smaller groups in a sense. That's the one-offs, where our classified folks would be working with 1 or 2 students in a particular skill area where they have a skill deficit. And what's nice is we want our classified folks to participate in the classroom so that there is a link and a connection from what the teacher's teaching to what the student would be working with that in that one-on-one session or one-on-2 session. The other piece that we continue to kind of support just with our kids is just that virtual outreach, and how do we connect with kids, whether it's a social emotional connection that we're trying to support. And some of our kids we've already identified as just needing that extra connection that allows them to be able to engage with another adult, with the intent it'll be around academics, but there's always conversations that come out of that interaction that we know will support our kids in their social emotional development as they get older and as they navigate this virtual learning world.
What plan do you have to support parents and families who elect to homeschool their children or form neighborhood pods and need coaching and instructional materials to effectively teach their children?
Lopez is no different than any of the other school districts across our country, and especially in our state. We're seeing a lot of families choosing to homeschool their children, and that's understandable. We get it. We're in the middle of a pandemic, the unknowns out there, and so we as as a parent myself, we want to protect our kids. And so creating those ways to protect our kids is one of the things we want to do. What Lopez has done to help support those families is we have a strong parent partner program, and we've just increased our enrollment ability with that program. That program really allows the families to stay connected to the school, receive information about what's happening at the school, updates, and just, still provide that learning capability that kids and families need with a little bit of guidance from both the school and from the state.
School held in buildings requires significant space changes, PPE resources, sanitation, COVID testing, access, and other considerations. How well prepared are you to hold school in facilities this fall? Are there viable options for meeting with smaller groups of students?
Knowing that we are going to a virtual learning model after we received the directive from Dr. Frank James, our county health official, it really allowed us to put our time and energy towards that virtual learning model. In that virtual learning model, one of the things that gets kind of addressed but no longer becomes a front runner is the PPE equipment unless we have kids coming here on site. We do have a few identified kids that we do have on site with special needs, and we're following the county's guidelines and CDC guidelines that support just creating that safe and healthy environment for both the student and the staff member and the families that are coming into the building. So if there's a shared space, that cleaning procedure, the safety procedures are all up, and we're working with county health officials on that. In addition, as we kind of look at meeting just those smaller groups of students and addressing some of those options, we want to be mindful of those families that are not able to connect with us a little bit and be able to support them in a way that keeps them connected to the school and preparing us to connect with them. And really what's going to happen is the transition plan, as we start to transition back to a brick and mortar system, it's going to basically have us connect to those families a little bit and just create opportunities where we can bring them in a safe and healthy way that addresses their learning needs and safety concerns that they might have, as well as staff safety concerns.
What safety protocols do you have in place for when staff and students return to the buildings? What protocols are in place should someone become sick with COVID?
So safety protocols are essential as we move forward into this new world, especially the new world of COVID. I think we're really doing due diligence with following what the county health guidelines and working with our county health officials as far as keeping just up to speed with their requirements and what they're identifying as potential concern areas. We've shared our restart plan with our county health official, and we're working with him on a number of things just to kind of help keep the building safe for staff and for students who may come in or may return at any point. As we kind of look at our protocols and systems, we're not only are we connecting with the county health officials, but we're also connecting with LNI, and we're connecting with the CDC and the State Board of Health. And so what's interesting about that is everybody has a little different take on what those procedures are and what those safety procedures might look like. And we're being very diligent about following our county's recommendations and staying in alignment there. We're also coordinating with the other island school districts and making sure that we're all on the same page as far as what we're doing as far as delivery models and safety procedures.
How many children depend upon school lunch programs and daycare? How do you plan to support them throughout the school year?
Yeah, we plan to support our students through our meals program, and one of the ways what we did this last spring was a model that was quite successful, and some of the other island school districts picked it up and used it as well. But we started a delivery model based off of the bus stops, and had a great system and set up there. We had volunteers who we would have them come in with masks and all the safety requirements needed, but we reached out to our community and received enough support there that we could navigate a healthy meals program. We average about 110 meals during the school year on average, but during the crisis, we were closer to about 150 meals first. So for us, being a small little school, and that's more than half of our school population, it was great to get to support our community that way. I think one of the challenges is daycare. We don't, being a smaller island, we don't have as many daycare options. And so that's definitely, and we don't have the staff to support daycare options. So that's definitely one of our challenges. And like I said from the beginning, we're not perfect, but at the same time, we're doing what we can to support kids. One of the pieces we've partnered with is we've created a connection with our Family Resource Center and our public library, and we are looking at supporting our families from like 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock in the afternoons when there isn't the block of learning happening for kids, with an outside, we call it open air program, where kids are outside and they're engaged in a learning environment that has activities and arts and, you know, PE type activities and movement and games. And we also created a component in there that supports homework for kids too, and the opportunity for kids to read or listen to a story, and just even, you know, just engage in different levels with other kids in a safe and appropriate way to do that.
What are the costs that need to be considered? Where will the funds come from? What other community resources are you tapping to support educational programming goals?
Funding is going to be a challenge. There's no question about that. And as we go into an unknown situation, the unknown costs are out there. And so being able to predict those or project those are challenging. There's, you know, I think at first we all estimated, you know, with a general number when we were creating our budgets this last spring. And it's been interesting just to see how close or how far off we were with that. And I would probably at this point estimate that we're going to be about 3 times the amount that we estimated from this last spring. And, you know, I'm going to be conservative with that, but at the same time, we want to find funding sources that supports that. And so we're having to make some challenges. The other side of the funding source is going to be enrollment. We're seeing kids move. All the islands are seeing kids move. Actually, all of the school districts across the country are seeing kids move. And so everybody's projecting less enrollment, which was a pretty standard practice this last spring. But it's interesting to see how much farther below that projected enrollment that we're ending up. So that's definitely a concern and something on our minds as we move forward with funding. We've reached out to other entities with just creating support pieces, with our Family Resource Center being one of them, and whether it's equipment or whether it's staffing. Our library is another one that we're looking at staffing and support there. So there's other resources, and then we've got an amazing community that likes to engage with us, and so we're setting up volunteer protocols and procedures where volunteers can help out as well. So something that we're, you know, trying to incorporate as much of the community as we can to make sure that we're being safe and we're getting learning to our kids.
What thoughts do you have about how our communities can work together to support quality education in this time of crisis? What do you appreciate about working and living in this island community? So
to expand on just how positive it's been to connect with the other island superintendents and our county health officials, it's been tremendous because, you know, like I mentioned earlier, there hasn't been a time that anybody's navigated a pandemic. And so this is unique for us all. So it's important for us to be able to collaborate and bounce ideas off of each other. And until you've really, you know, done the job of a superintendent, you really don't know what it's like. And then throw on top of it an unknown pandemic that's impacting our entire nation. And so there's a lot of unknowns there. And quite often superintendents are feeling isolated, confused, and you're seeing, you know, dark bags under their eyes because they're trying to put in the hours and time to make sure everybody's healthy and safe and learning and engaged. And so it's an interesting time that we're in right now with just that, and having that collaboration between the other island school districts. And we even collaborate a little farther than that. We go out to like Anacortes, and we've got our 35 school districts in our region. And so we connect with our regional school district superintendents as well on a regular basis. And, you know, that level of collaboration right now during this pandemic has really helped, I think, everybody just navigate some challenges. Everything from, you know, identifying furlough days and what does that look like for a district to help support staff, to what would be the appropriate procedures that would support that, to, you know, in-person learning and models, and how are other school districts addressing the concerns there? How are we addressing equity, and what are the pieces that other school districts have in place? And so we're all kind of, you know, bringing our own ideas to the table and navigating conversations that really show a high level of collaboration and support for navigating this. And I can tell you, there's more experienced people in education than I am, and there's people that have been doing this longer than I have. But at the same time, we each have something we contribute because we have our own strength in our own location and our own position that we bring to the table that can be used in other school districts. And so there's a high level of collaboration happening amongst, like I said, not only the county school district, school district superintendents, but also our regional superintendents. So that's been great. That I appreciate about the Lopez community is that when in times that it's really tough or challenging, it really pulls together. And it's interesting, everybody puts aside their differences, and everybody puts aside either hurt feelings or emotions, and they really focus in on what is really necessary or what's the most important piece. And I see Lopez community already doing that. We're already putting biases aside or hurt feelings or emotions aside, and we're focusing on what's healthy for our kids. And that focus is amazing. It's amazing to see. And it's amazing just to hear the stories from parents or from people who are just, barely connected to the school, like grandparents or, community members coming in and wanting to support programs for kids or being able to support kids themselves. So it's fundamentally just, great to see that type of connection and that type of value come to the school. We have an amazing community here that the school is the largest entity on the island, and the folks on this island support their school, and they showed it here in this last tech levy, which they approved it with over 68%. So that's an amazing amount of support right there during a time that we're in a national pandemic. So this island, they know when to support the school, and the time is now. The time is really, we need our families, we need our grandparents, we need those groups of people who are connected to the school in ways that can support kids and the staff. The staff needs their support as well. And so I really appreciate everything that's already come to us, and I look forward to a tremendous amount more coming at us for support and just that kindness and that caring that kids need and that adults need to be able to care for kids. So looking forward to that and just embracing that and helping Lopez be all it can be. Any family out there who's interested in supporting Lopez School, or any community members interested in supporting Lopez School, or even somebody who's just barely connected to Lopez Island, please reach out to me. My email address is on the website. If you go to our school website, it's bauckland@lopezislandschool.org, and let me know what you can do to help or how you can help. We are putting things together here within the next week and reaching out for resources, and really this is the time when we really need that community support. So please contact us and let us know how we can create programs or create things that are going to help you engage with us, and how we can connect you to areas of support that we do need. So I appreciate just anybody and everybody who connects with us and just reaches out with just caring and a lot of love. So thank you, Lopez community.
Thank you very much, Brian. We really have appreciated this, and you're doing a fabulous job.